Hi, welcome to Allergy Dragon's Lair podcast. My name is Martha Morgan. I'm a specialty diet and allergy chef. I happen to have celiac disease myself and a couple of food allergies, but my biggest claim to fame is raising a child with over 30 food allergies and celiac disease. Okay, well, I am so excited about this episode, and I say that every single time. I am so excited about my episode, but I really mean it. But before we jump into this episode of a fellow YouTuber here, quick disclaimer: the views expressed here on our show are the personal opinions and life experiences of ours and our guests. We are not healthcare providers or doctors. Please seek advice from your healthcare professionals for any diagnosis or changes to your healthcare plan. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode. So I have here Jilly G from Jilly G's Gluten-Free YouTube channel. Jilly G, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here talking with you.
Jilly G, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your journey going gluten-free? Just a short question.
I'll try to give a really short answer.
That's fine.
So I have my YouTube channel, Jilly G's Gluten-Free, and I have celiac disease, and I've been gluten-free for going on 12 years now. I'll try to give the nutshell version. Of course, over on my channel, I do have a couple of videos where I go into a lot of detail and I kind of blubber my way through it, but it took about 15 years to get diagnosed, and it was just a downward spiral, and just things got worse and worse and worse. And that's the same for a lot of people with our condition. And so you just keep going to doctor after doctor, and you hope for some kind of diagnosis for something. Yeah, too many symptoms to even talk about. There's just so many. And then I remember when I first got diagnosed that the internet wasn't what it is now. And there was only two places that were had any information about it. And sometimes it would be a question of, well, is ketchup gluten-free? And then other things would be, well, I heard there's over 300 signs and symptoms. And then for myself, I was like, I'm not even going to read that, because then I'll have all 300 of those signs and symptoms. I already know the ones I have. I don't need all of these other ones. But then you kind of peek at it a little bit because you want to know, well, is this one in my head, or is this one actually other people experiencing this too? And it was nice that was there, but it really wasn't very helpful. And I remember I met a lady that she was diagnosed 10 years before me. And I used to ask her questions of, what did you do? Because I don't even know what I can do. The grocery stores had hardly anything. Nobody had really even heard of it. And then I'd say about 6 months after I got diagnosed, and I was finally kind of figuring a few things out, it became a fad diet. And I was really kind of happy about that, because it brought awareness, but then it also brought that people didn't take you seriously. And so then you'd go to the restaurant and people, they really wouldn't take you seriously at all. And I've said before in my videos too, I've been known to show up with my own dinner plate at a dinner party. I've been known to show up at many restaurants with my own lunchbox. And no one's ever told me to leave, or, you can't have outside food in here. But I just, that was what made me feel comfortable. And so now that the fad is kind of over, and a lot of people realize that they don't enjoy being gluten-free if they don't have to, that people kind of take you more seriously now, which I think is helpful. But it brought awareness, but it's kind of gone back the other way, which is good.
Since this episode will be out, during our May Celiac Awareness Month, for those of you that are listening and aren't aware of that. And, I was diagnosed in 2009. And so not too far from your time frame either.
Yeah.
So lived through it all, that as well. I'd been a chef at the time, or hitting 20, years. And some of this stuff, I had no clue. And I was like, what? For me, I had already started with food allergies from my kiddo. And then for myself, but, having celiac disease and going, oh, that's what's wrong with me. Wow. Same thing. I was misdiagnosed. It's just crazy. All of our journeys are very important, because all of our experiences are different, because like you said, that 300 plus symptoms you could have, like what spectrum do you land on?
Yeah.
My sister Cindy who's my celiac sister that we have celiac episodes on. I called her, and it was actually our mother that was watching a TV show, and Elizabeth Hasselbeck had her book out, and I got it. And that's literally how we started the process. And for my sister, she was aspirating in the middle of the night, vomiting in the middle of the night in her sleep. So yeah, so very different on spectrums on how it affected us.
It's funny. My grandma watched The View and got me that cookbook too. Because it was right around when I had first gone gluten free, and my grandma said, she's like, this will help you. And I was like, oh, yay, because I didn't have any recipes and I didn't know what to do. I thought I had to reinvent the wheel and completely start over, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was about 15 years. I was a teenager. Well, and I think it probably goes to when I was born, because I was diagnosed with anemia as a baby. And then eczema as a young kid, and just various things like that. Hay fever like no other. I was allergic to everything outside. I don't think I breathed through my nose my entire childhood. It was just constant congestion. And then in my later teenage years, about 16 or so, and I'm 44 now. I think I'm 45 now. I am 45 now. That's what happens when you have a birthday.
It's okay. You start to go, oh my God, how old was I? I just had my birthday too.
Oh,
when was your birthday? Oh, thank you.
In March.
Me too.
Happy late birthday.
Thank you. I just turned 47.
So we are close in age.
We are close in age. Okay.
Yeah. So I was about 16 when I started having a lot of bathroom frequencies. It just kind of progressed from there. And then when I was 19, it got really, really bad, and I'd gotten lost weight, and I just couldn't keep weight on. And then of course, they don't talk about all the anxiety and other things that come along with that too, because you're literally fighting to live, and your body's trying to kill you, but you don't know that. And then you have anxiety on top of it. And then they're like, we need to sleep more. Well, okay, well, that won't solve all the problems, and so then I had a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of very personal testing, that's not pleasant for anybody. No. And yeah, everything just came back fine. Oh, everything's fine and great. And it was like, well, I don't feel fine, and then it's almost like it would go into, I don't even want to call it a remission. It would get better for a little bit. And as a teenager, my diet wasn't very good. It's like a soda pop and a Snickers bar was dinner, and that's a lot of teenagers are like that. And so I really started making efforts to eat better and just try to feel better. And then it would get better for a little bit. And then during that time, my, female appointments for the female doctors, they would always test my blood, and it was always anemic. And every single time. And then sometimes they'd be a little more concerned than others. And then other times they weren't that concerned. And almost every single doctor gave me the same answer. Well, you're a young woman of childbearing age. And then they would always, and I guess to get a little personal, they'd always say, well, it has heavy periods. And I said, well, you've never asked me if I've had a heavy period. So and I can tell you that's not the case. If anything, I'm the other extreme of I barely have a period. So I don't know if that might be too personal to talk about. Oh,
no, you're fine. But we have talked about vomit, diarrhea, and stomach upset. Like it's part of it.
It is.
Get us unfiltered, And
I know that a lot of people have female issues. Women that can't get pregnant is sometimes how they find out that they have celiac disease. And so that was kind of all intermingled with all of my other testing, because I was having a lot of female trouble at the same time, that just besides being anemic, that nobody could really figure out what's wrong. And again, more testing with that. And then it all kind of happened within the same year, is that I think I was thrown into menopause. I had been on the pill for quite a few years. It was giving me a lot of trouble. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go off the pill. I always tell people, listen to your body. And I felt like my body was telling me that this isn't serving any purpose anymore. It might be, causing other problems. So let's just stop it and see what happens. And I know there's issues that for people that have been on the pill for a long time, that hormonal imbalances can happen after that. But I feel like it was forcing my body to have regular cycles when my body was not wanting to have regular cycles. I think it threw me into menopause, which, yay, at a really young age. And I'm still going through a lot of that. Hot flashes are no fun for anybody. And I'm like the swamp monster all the time. And so, but again, one of the symptoms is early menopause. And so it all kind of goes into all of the other symptoms. And some of that has gotten better too. But I think one of the things too is that you don't realize is that your symptoms, they don't get better overnight.
Mm-mm.
It takes time. And some of them take years to get over. And then sometimes they decide to have a little visit. And that's no fun either. And then you play the guessing game of what did I do? So
yeah, that's never a fun game. It's like,
never.
And if it gets really bad, you're like, don't want to eat for a few days.
Right.
Or at least I don't. I'm like, I won't.
Me too.
It takes me a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that mental anxiety that people don't understand.
Oh, that turns us all, or at least for me, turns me into an OCD person that I'll go back and double check everything in my house that I looked at the label at least 5 times before I bought it, and then you go back and think, what, did I read it right? I know this ketchup's been in here forever. Could it be it? It's just all of those things that you second guess yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that, that's just unfortunately our life, right? I guess, and everybody's different. And that's another thing is like, we all have similarities, and it's always like, oh my gosh, when you find another celiac, you're like, hey, you're my people.
I know, except me too.
It's like, I really think mine for sure that mine started when I was 10 years of age, maybe even earlier, because I was diagnosed with RA, rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile when I was 4. So autoimmune diseases can't have just one. 12, I was really having 11 to 12. I started having a lot of stomach issues. And then at 13, 14, it got real, real bad. And I actually had my gallbladder taken out when I was 14. Looking back at it, I'm like, I was celiac disease.
Right.
It's just frustrating.
Absolutely.
But I feel so positive now because I've had so many clients lately that have been younger generation, like teenagers and little kids that are getting diagnosed that are good and bad, that they're asymptomatic. They don't have symptoms, but their doctors are catching it. Yeah. And I was like, that does bring me hope. It brings me hope for the future that all of us.
Yeah. And there's so many products out there that are available now too. And just so much more awareness of it. I remember when I was watching your other podcast with Equal Eats. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, Kyle.
I was going to say Kevin. Yeah, and I think about that when he talked about when he was a young kid, and I remember going to school as a young kid, there was always maybe just one person that had maybe a peanut allergy or something, but nothing like there is today. And so I always think about that. Is it because they're catching it sooner and people are more aware of it and they know to look for it? Or is there something else? I always think about that. Is there something else going on that there's so much of it now? Yeah. And I don't have the answer for that, but
no. And the doctors are still looking into it. I mean, we have so much more research than we did. Yeah. But I think it's a little bit of everything. As you can tell, anybody that has celiac disease and anybody listening, we can talk for hours about it because it's like, you understand.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do subscribe to your YouTube channel. I do watch quite a few of your videos. One I watched was the crepe one that just came up. So you created that channel, obviously, considering the fact of its name. So can you tell us why you decided to start the YouTube channel?
I always wanted to be a chef. I always loved to cook, and I just, something about food, I've always loved it. And that's a really interesting thing then the food's trying to kill you. You love something so much, but it's that double-edged sword there. So my brother and his wife, they have a YouTube channel, and we were down at my mom's house it was a 4th of July little picnic, and I'd made this peach dessert. And so my brother, they were filming for their YouTube channel, and he brought it up on and showed it and filmed it. And he said, this is a gluten-free dessert. And then of course I'm so embarrassed, and I'm so on the spot of the camera, and really nervous. And then he asked all of his viewers, he said, if you guys think that she should make a YouTube channel, let us know in the comments. And then when that video came out, and all of their comments, they were sending me all of these comments. They were like, Jill, you've got to do this. Look how many people want you to start a gluten-free channel. And then I really started thinking about it, and I'm like, can I do that? I don't know. I'm so embarrassed and nervous to be on camera. And so I started practicing a little bit with my phone. And then I that year for Christmas, I got a camera. And then it was actually my brother again. He was here one day. He was helping me kind of figure out YouTube a little bit because I was just getting everything ready. And I was ready, and I had a video ready, but I wasn't ready. And then he was sitting here with me, and he's like, do it. You do it right now. And I said, well, I'm not ready. He's like, yes, you are. You're ready. This is ready. This is ready. Do it. Push the button. And I was like, okay. So I did. So he was really encouraging, and I needed that kind of that kick in the pants to really launch it from there. And then I go back and I look at the very beginning and I think, oh, those are kind of terrible. But it's very humbling because that's where I started, and everyone can see that there I started and here I am now. I like to help people and I like to feed people. And it was a lot of problems that I suffered through. So I thought maybe I could make it easier for other people and people that are just starting out. It's one thing that you can go to a bakery and you could get a gluten-free cookie, but what are you going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? You have to eat. And I mentioned before, when I first went gluten-free, I kind of felt like I had to start everything new. And then I was not very successful at all. And I thought, I'm just going to make my recipes and my family recipes and just convert them to be gluten-free. And I've been doing it ever since. And, there's some failures in there for sure, but you get the hang of it. And it might not be great, but you can make it better next time. And I always tell people, with my channel is this is what it will look like. Now, I'm not a professional baker. I'm not a professional chef or anything. So my food might not look as beautiful as it would in a bakery or a restaurant, but it's really delicious and it's good for me. So you kind of get that. It doesn't have to be exactly like the original, but we can make really good gluten-free versions of it.
Yeah. And my whole thing with Allergy Dragon, I'm sure is like that everyone deserves delicious food, period.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and people always hate it whenever I start sitting there and I was like, well, gluten-free is easier compared to doing so. And then they're like, what? It's not. And I'm like, no, gluten-free itself, being gluten-free, when I first went gluten-free, it is not easy by any means to start to switch over.
Yeah.
I said, but when I start talking about for me, I said, with my family and what I have to do is I now have to make something that's gluten-free, and then I have to take the eggs out of it, and I have to take this out of it, and I have to take this out of it. So then I'm really ripping the recipe apart and putting it back together. So you really have to understand all the semantics behind it. And I think anybody can do that. And I think the fact that you decided to convert your recipes versus then, starting from the wheel is the best thing to do, because that's what I did too. Because it's like, no amount of schooling and stuff like that. Like it was like I hadn't worked with millet in forever, because I was a pastry chef. They don't teach you these things and the mixtures and what those actually do. And speaking of mess ups, I will share my biggest mess up if you share your biggest mess up, but that ended up being like a delicious thing in the end.
Okay.
And that mine was, I was trying to do soft baked pretzels. Okay. So I made some with salt, some without. And I picked the one up and was eating it with salt. And I was like, it's not bad, but it's not a pretzel. And then my husband picked one. He doesn't like the rock salt. Yeah. So he picks up the other one and he takes a bite of it and he says, no, but he says, this would make a really good biscuit. And I was like, what? So I grabbed it from him. And then I literally reworked that recipe a little bit, took the yeast out of it and stuff, and made my biscuit recipe from my one of my bad attempts of a pretzel recipe.
That's awesome. That's awesome though.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, it was a happy accident. I was like, oh, okay, and that's kind of why I made the YouTube channel too, is to help people, like you said, and we've made all these mistakes. Here's your shortcut.
Exactly. Well, so my really big mistake, I was making zucchini bread, and it's my mom's recipe and my entire family uses it. And I loved that bread recipe. I was doubling the recipe because it's nice to I always say this on my channel too. It's always nice to have more than one. It's the same amount of work to make two, and then you can throw one in the freezer, and then you've got a snack to be prepared, because sometimes, at least in the beginning, there wasn't always places. I can't just run to the store and get a snack. Yeah. I don't have an hour on my lunch break to go stand and read labels in the grocery store. So I always have things that I can just take out of the freezer. So I was making my zucchini bread recipe. And I guess as a little side note is most of my recipes, I do not use any xanthan gum or any kind of binder like that. And how I discovered that I don't need to use that is kind of experimenting, but I was making the zucchini bread and I ended up putting in a lot of vanilla. Unbelievable amount of vanilla that I didn't realize, because I was doubling the recipe, but in my head I was quadrupling it, and my math skills were not very good. And And so I put in way too much vanilla. And as soon as I poured it in, I realized it was way too much. And I thought, why don't I, these expensive ingredients, I don't want to just throw it away. And I like vanilla. So I just went with it. And that was the best zucchini bread that I had made at that time. And I realized that extra liquid is what it needed. And then I thought, well, I'll just start using an extra egg. So that was a really good mistake that turned out to be really good. And I'm so glad that I just stuck with it and I baked it anyways, instead of just throwing it away. And then I learned from that. And I've actually had quite a few mistakes like that, where you're trying to make something else and it turns into this, and you learn so much from it. You think, well, if I just tweak this one thing, then I will have a better product.
And it's just really understanding the proteins and the moisture level and that kind of thing, and then understanding your grains and the gums and all the different things and what they actually do. Yeah, it's chemistry, and it's fun though.
It's a lot of fun. I'm the kind of person that, laying in bed at night, I like to read a cookbook rather than, a spy novel or something. I love recipes.
I have so many cookbooks from people are like, what? And then I have my own notebooks for years and years and years that I have been doing this, because I would always document it. And now, of course, I've been putting everything on computer. Mm-hmm. And speaking of cookbooks, I'm pretty sure that you have a cookbook too, right?
I do. Here, this is my author's copy. It's why it has this here. And yeah, I have notebooks. I have, and I've talked about this on my channel. Most of my cookbooks have a ton of little paper shoved in there and sticky notes. And it's such a mess. If you drop it and they all fall out, I'm in trouble. Because a lot of times I don't even put what recipe it's for. When I was first converting chocolate chip cookies, I was making all of these notes. And then one day I was like, what does this go to? I didn't even put anything chocolate chips on the list, is what helped me realize. And so then I start labeling which one it goes to. So when I first put my cookbook together, it was a really helpful thing for me, because now that's the actual recipe and I don't have to go through all of my sticky notes and everything to figure out what I'm trying to do. So, or what I already did.
Yeah, a lot of mine I've had to type up, and I don't even have them all typed up, because I've been doing recipe creation for some of it professionally as well as personally, working with companies, that kind of thing. So most of mine's on a database in my computer, or sometimes they're still in my notebooks. And I'll be like, I know I have that, and I have to find it, and then I have to type it up. And then sometimes I end up re-looking at it and I realize I've typed something wrong. So I'm like, that's not right. There's no way I would have done that.
Yep.
So that's funny. And I'm still working on my cookbook constantly. And then I think we finally have come up with a family one that we're trying to get. I thought we were going to get it done this year. It's just not going to happen. So I'm hoping next year I'm going to get a cookbook out eventually. It's one of my dreams to have out. Yeah. And so I'm so glad that you had one. I have not looked at your cookbook yet. I honestly just really realized you had one because I saw it on the back of a video and I was like, wait a minute. And then I looked at your drop down that you had a cookbook and I went, cool. So then I looked it up on Amazon and stuff. So.
Oh, good. It was a lot of fun to put together, and it's a lot of work. You think off the top of your head, I'm like, oh, it's nothing. I've got it written down here. I'll just type it up over here. And then you realize that you can't spell, and you realize that you can't make a sentence. And then I took over all of the stacks of papers for my friend to edit for me, because he cooks a lot too. And I said, you already have a knowledge of cooking, just is it an easy recipe to follow? And so he made all the corrections, and then I went back, and then I got the first author's copy, and I went to make pancakes, and I was like, there's a mistake in here. So I was really glad for that, because then I could go back and fix that. And it's a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun to put together. I understand where you're coming from, because it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and it's so rewarding at the end.
Mm-hmm. It is. I just feel like I need to reproduce myself. I gotta I gotta get to that point. I'm gonna probably end up buying your cookbook. I don't know. I just like to like other people's cookbooks too. And it's just a show of support as well. But
absolutely. Yeah. Well, as soon as yours comes out, I will buy yours.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I wasn't saying for that, but I'm just saying, I just have this thing about, cookbooks in general. Yeah. I have the same addiction that you do, probably maybe even more so, because I still have a couple of my cookbook, one of my nieces was wanting me to send her some of my books from school. like
Oh
eons
yeah.
ago. So yeah, I was like, I have a lot of books.
That's awesome. I almost went as far as getting enrolled in Le Cordon Bleu.
Mhm.
And the closest one to where I am in Utah would be Vegas. And my sister, her sister-in-law knew somebody, or brother-in-law, somebody knew somebody that got me an application, and I filled it out, and I thought, I don't think I can do this, because I was worried that if I went to school for it and I did it for a living, that I wouldn't love it like I love it now. So I'm really glad that I didn't do it. But I have a friend that did go to Le Cordon Bleu, and he got me one of his old cookbooks from the pastry and baking section. So I also have that in my cookbook collection.
I do too.
It's so fun. I was like, what other dork in the world would like an old, college cookbook? But me, I do.
Yeah. I have that too. Yeah, I do. It's like, because then you network with people and know people. But yeah, I have like a cordon bleu because I didn't try to go to there either. It was like, that's not very close to me. Anyway.
And it takes a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money.
No.
And then I used to make sugar cookies for every holiday, because I don't even know if people like to eat them for that matter. But, for probably 20 years, I would make sugar cookies for every holiday because I like to make them and decorate them.
Mm-hmm. We do. We like icing. So like it was just the thing, even with the kids. Oh yeah. No, I got that. I get that. We are kindred souls, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
I think so too. I can't tell you how many cookie cutters I have. And it's not enough.
My gosh. Yeah. Talking about Ninja, I have Ninja gingerbread cookie cutters.
Really?
Yeah. And then I have Lego cookie cutters.
Yeah.
And then I have like tons of Christmas, Valentine,
Easter.
As we were talking about
Easter.
Yeah. But we don't do as many cookies now as everybody's gotten older. But I used to do it like all the time. And I think it was because the kids, they like the shapes, but I like to eat them still too. I always Christmas, I have to have sugar cookies there. But I love to decorate. If I could do that all the time, that would be a dream.
It would be a dream. I agree. If I'm going to be cooking a dinner for everybody, I want everyone to enjoy it. I don't want everyone to not look forward to having a meal with me because they know it's going to be gluten-free. And mostly everybody is really open-minded. And so for my nieces and nephews, as they get older, they don't want birthday cakes anymore. So I'll make cookies and other treats. And I get so many requests, and I think, wow, that's awesome. Because even though they're not gluten-free, I still make it gluten-free. And then they really enjoy it, and then they request it again. And then whoever's birthday is first out of some of these kids, the next one wants that same thing because they liked it so much. So to me, those are really good compliments without actually being a compliment. And so I really appreciate that too.
We kind of already went over some of your food, but so what is your absolute, since we're still on the food thing, what is your absolute favorite food to cook meal, or like your favorite recipe out of your cookbook, however you want to go with that, or both?
Oh, I would have to say, I can't just pick one. I have to say, I love anything breakfast. Breakfast all day, every day. I could eat nachos all day, every day. I could eat. And there's so many desserts I like. I could never just pick one.
Okay, good answer.
There, I gave you like all of my favorites.
I'm with you with Mexican food. It's delicious, and I'm like more authentic Mexican food too. And as far as desserts, I really don't have a favorite dessert, so I can't really sit there and be like, oh, anything with icing.
Well, and and I think too, I go back and forth between like when peaches are in season, I want all the peach desserts, but then I love blueberries, but then I love cupcakes, and then I love other things. So I love cookies. So there's so many different things that I just like them all.
Yeah, so you would be happy just like me, like we both would be happy in a place filled with desserts.
Yep, I think so.
Okay. I've experienced it before. It really is one of my happy places. I can tell you for sure. Do you have any plans for the future? Like what kind of plans can we see things going on with Jilly G's Gluten-Free YouTube or anything else?
I'm just going to keep going. I don't know if you ever feel this way, but once in a while I'll get a little bit of anxious feelings, and I think, am I going to run out of recipes? And then I think, no, there's so many things I haven't made yet, or there's new things I haven't tried yet either. And new products come out, new ingredients come out that might be workable, and so my plan is to just keep going. I don't know that it will keep going forever, but I'm excited to just see where it goes.
Well, I think the growth you've had has been amazing. but you've really been putting a lot of work into it. There's something to be said for just showing up and doing the same thing over and over again sometimes, And so I just now started showing back up again last May. So I'm just now getting ready to hit my year of showing back up for my YouTube channel. It's fun to see where it's going to grow, because I didn't think I would be sitting here interviewing you or anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think there's huge amounts to be said for doing the things. And you've done quite a few collaborations with Our Heritage Works and David. So check out that podcast or my video with him if you have not seen that. For those of you who are listening, I know Jilly has seen it. So I was like, wait, I know Jilly. I know. I was like, you commented on it. So I was like, and then I interviewed on his channel. So anyway, check his channel out. And these are not things I didn't think when I met him and David, speaking of David, in 2019, that we would be later on, collaborating in this way in a virtual space and telling our stories. I think that's all very important. So I'm glad that you're going to keep showing up. I do like your channel. I think it is really cute.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And you do have some really good recipes. And a lot of them I have to, I adapt it to make it work for me. And I think that you're genuine, and that's what we need in this space.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I think you're doing amazing things too, because I always think about that. I use a lot of eggs, and eggs are my magic binder without using gums or anything like that. But where in your house you have somebody that can't have eggs. And so I think you have so many useful things too, because there are a lot of people out there that can't have eggs, or for that matter, a little while ago when nobody could get eggs. So,
or you didn't want to pay $10 for a dozen eggs.
Exactly. I think it's amazing that you create such amazing things with so many different variations that you have to do. And so I think that's valuable to my viewers as well, because I know some of my viewers will say, well, I can't have this or this. And sometimes they'll tell me they're replacements and sometimes not. But I think me being able to send them your way, I think you'll be so helpful for them too.
And like you said, sharing information with people, I'm like, if you come up with something new that I haven't known about, then, let's share the wealth, because that information, I had to go find it. You had to go find it. And that's what we're all about is sharing community and information together.
Celiac disease, it's not anything I would have ever asked for, but it's here and I have it, and I can't get rid of it. So I have to live with it.
It's like you said, spreading goodness and positivity, and looking at what you can versus what you can't have. I don't know where we started off with this, but
I don't know.
We just started talking about positivity, damn it.
That's right.
And food. Well, Jilly G, thank you so much for being on my channel. It has been beyond words of how incredibly fun this has been for both. I hope for both of us.
It's been so much fun. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's been so fun to get to know you and have some laughs and talk about things we both love.
Do you have anything at all you would like to end the show with? Any words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to share with everybody?
Now I'm just at a loss for words, which is a rare thing. But no, I think just, keep at it. If you make something terrible, try again next time. Don't give up on it, and just experiment, because you might learn things that we don't know, and then we could all just figure things out together.
Pretty much more of what we just said. So
exactly.
We're just going to keep the positivity bus going. So we're wrapping up this episode with Jilly G. All the links will be down below for Jilly G. So make sure you go check out her YouTube channel and her Instagram info. Go ahead and subscribe and like and all that stuff that you normally do for YouTube. And if you're listening on via podcast, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Okay, we will talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.